The best way to reduce aggression in school is to teach children how to handle it on their own, so they don't need our help. Simultaneously, it is our duty to discipline children for causing harm to others. Discipline is very serious business. The way we discipline children determines the way they understand what they did wrong, how they will behave in the future, and how they will discipline their own children when they become parents and perhaps someday educators. Unfortunately, many of the things schools do in the name of discipline often causes more harm than good. One of those things is punishment. There's been a growing belief in our country that the way to eliminate bullying is to have zero-tolerance policies. This requires us to immediately and severely punish children when they are mean to other children. However, this is a major reason why bullying has become an increasingly serious problem during the very same period that schools have become more aggressive in trying to get rid of it. If we want children to learn to behave morally, it is essential to discipline them morally. Many people think discipline is a synonym for punishment. It isn't. Discipline is a synonym for education. Punishment may be part of the disciplinary repertoire, but to be effective in teaching good behavior, it must be moral. This lesson will provide guidelines for moral punishment that leads to positive learning. Punishment has several purposes. The following are three most important. One is to deter future wrongdoing. Two is to have the violators make restitution to their victims. Three is to reform violators so that they will become better people who don't want to repeat their misdeeds. For punishment to be moral and effective, it must fit the crime. That is the meaning of the biblical injunction of an eye for an eye. If a person pokes out someone's eye, the judge would require him to pay restitution of an amount that fairly compensates the injured person for the loss of their eye, meaning lost wages, health care expenses, and compensation for suffering. And also to reform lawbreakers by making them feel remorse for their crime and realize the wrongfulness of their action. If the punishment is too lenient, it will accomplish none of these purposes. It will fail to deter crime because crime will pay. It won't make sufficient restitution to the victims, and the violator won't recognize the gravity of what he did wrong because what we do to him is less serious than what he did to the victim. On the other hand, if punishment is more severe than the crime, it may deter crime and make restitution, but it will not make the violator a better person because it's unfair. Rather than feeling remorseful, the violator will feel like a victim of the system and want revenge. Only when the punishment fits the crime will it be moral and effective. It will deter crime because crime won't pay. It will make sufficient restitution to victims, and the violator will recognize the gravity of what he did to the victims because we make him suffer to a similar extent. He's less likely to be angry with society because he was treated fairly. Unfortunately, the punishments, or consequences, as many people prefer to call them, that schools administer are usually immoral and ineffective. They are unrelated to the crime and are usually far worse than the crime. Let's say that you and I are kids in school, and I've been knocking your books out of your hands. In most school districts today, the mandated punishment is suspension, and after a couple of suspensions, expulsion from school. But how are suspending and expelling related to what I did to you? How do they help make me accountable for my actions? In this case, no relationship exists between the crime and the punishment. Furthermore, suspension and expulsion do not make restitution to you. And what's being done to me is much worse than what I've been doing to you. How do we know that? Well, ask yourself, what would I rather have? My books knocked out of my hands a few times, or be kicked out of school altogether? As unpleasant as it is to have your books knocked out of your hands, expulsion from school is much worse. Rather than leading me to feel remorseful to you for knocking your books out of your hand, I'm furious with you and the school for punishing me so harshly. So I want revenge against you and may do something worse. So what would be a fitting punishment? Having me carry your books for a while? It will humiliate me as I have humiliated you. I will make it up to you by making your life a little easier. And I will realize what I did wrong because a relationship exists between what I did to you and what is done to me in return. Furthermore, when we punish kids, we should not do it with anger, but with regret. We should say, "We wish we didn't have to do this to you, but since you've been knocking Johnny's books out of his hands, you will now have to carry Johnny's books between classes for the next 2 days or whatever the time frame is decided on." It is necessary for us to punish students for hurting others, but remember that the punishment should fit the crime.